Hello, this is a walkthrough in class on how to validate and submit your schedule. Submitting your schedule is what you will do when we ask for schedules are due. It is also the mark of when we move from design mode to refine mode. In order to do this, you have to validate your schedule. Validating is basically running your entire schedule against all the rules that we have in place in class. This is done by using the validate tool that is located at the top of class. So once you're ready to submit your schedule, you'll be in your scheduling unit within class. You'll click on the validate tool. And once you click on it, it will start running all of your classes against all of the rules that we have in place. So you'll see the rules kind of start popping up, and you'll see these numbers start populating at the top. These numbers can be kind of misleading. The numbers are referring to the rules. So far, the validation tool has gone through 62 rules that we have in place. It's completed 52 right now, and of the 50 some, at this point 51 have passed and 7 rules have quote unquote failed. Don't be confused or worried about this failed number here. That is just referring to the amount of rules that are triggered. So we've had 7 rules in total that are triggered, and that is what it's referring to when it says failed. Nothing entirely has failed. It's just referring to how many rules were specifically triggered. So in this instance, we can see our list of rules. A blue symbol here with the 3 people indicates a workflow. This first one, which says scheduling unit submissions from design mode to refine mode require approval, will always populate when you click on the validate tool in design mode. That is essentially saying that when you are ready to submit your schedule, that submission will come to academic scheduling to review. So that will always populate for you. The second symbol you can see here is a yellow symbol with an exclamation point. That is a warning. This is something that might show up on your sections when you save them. This is also seen as an FYI. This is something that you should take a look at, but it doesn't prevent you from saving a section, and it also doesn't prevent you from submitting your schedule. If you wanted to view what classes are specifically triggering this warning itself, you can click on this little box with an arrow, and it's going to open up a new screen. As you can see here, this is our screen. These are the classes that are triggering that specific warning. So if you wanted to review those specific classes, you can review them by just clicking on that box. We're going to go back to our main screen. And we can see we have another workflow. That is fine. That's just anything workflow from design mode to refine mode is just coming to academic scheduling. So we will be reviewing anything that's triggering this blue symbol. The biggest thing to keep an eye out for, there are 2 things in particular when you are validating and submitting your schedule. One specifically is an error. An error is anything that comes up with this red symbol. A red symbol is something that has to be resolved before you can submit your schedule. For instance, we can see we don't have the option to submit the schedule because we have an error. These errors have to be resolved in order for us to submit our schedule. So for this issue, we would want to click on the little box. We'd want to see what class is triggering the error, and we'd want to open up the class and resolve the error. Once we fixed both of these errors, we can close out of the validation and run it again. And once they've been completely resolved, we'll have a submit to workflow button. The contact minute rule is another thing that you'll want to pay attention to. This comes up as a warning, but it is important to double check that your contact minutes are correct. The reason this is a warning is because in class, the contact minutes cannot understand when classes are linked. So if you have a class that has a lecture component and a linked recitation, it might trigger this warning, but you might be meeting the 150 minutes total between the two components. Class doesn't understand the multiple components, so you might come up with this warning. That's why it's important to review it, but if you get the warning, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's completely wrong, but it is something that you'll want to be double checking. The other nice thing when looking at this specific rule, the only two that are really a problem are the two that are highlighted in red. So for instance, we don't have anything that is triggering anything in the gray areas. We just have something that's triggering. So a unit is 3 and the component is lecture or seminar, and the weekly minutes are less than 150. And the second line as well. But all the other lines are fine. We don't have anything triggering for those. So if we wanted to review these, we can just click on the box with the arrow. Our last thing is a workflow. And once again, that'll just come to academic scheduling to review. When we're ready and we've resolved all of our issues and our errors, when we validate and we don't have any errors, we're going to have a button here at the bottom that says Submit to Workflow. That is the button that you'll want to press to fully submit your schedule. You have to click on that button in order for it to send to academic scheduling and for us to receive your schedule. It can take a couple of minutes for the validation tool to run. It depends on how many classes you have within your specific unit. The more classes you have, the longer it can take for the validation tool to run. As you can see, this specific unit does not have any errors, so they have a submit or they have a start workflow button here at the bottom. So once they are ready to submit their schedule, they'll just click on the start workflow and that will submit their schedule to us. And that is how to use the validation tool to submit your schedule.